morning, students. Welcome to the computer period. In today's class, we are going to discuss about non-contiguous memory allocation. In the previous class, we had discussed in detail about the contiguous memory allocation, where you had seen that our RAM is divided into free chunks of memory, scattered pieces of free memory everywhere, because of the coming and going of processes of different sizes and because processes are stored contiguously. Okay, we had seen a case where we have memory and a process P1 comes into the memory, P2 comes into the memory, P3 comes into the memory, and this is the free space which is left. Now P1 completes its execution and leaves, and another process P4 comes into the memory and a free space is created over here. P2 also completes its execution, another process P5 comes into the memory and again a free chunk of memory is created. So you can see that these chunks of free memory, they are scattered throughout the memory, and because they are scattered, hence what happens is you cannot allocate this memory, this free memory, to any process even if that process size is equal to or less than the combined sizes of these free memory. Why? Because this memory is what? It is scattered. Okay, it is over here. Suppose this part we have some 10K over here, some 40K over here, and we have some 150K over here. So you will get a total of 100 and you'll get a total of 200K over here. 200K of free memory. So 200K of free memory is there, and suppose a process arrives which needs this 200K or say 196K. We won't be able to provide this to the new process. Why? Because these three chunks of memory, this 200K is the sum total of these free memory. And that is the reason why we will be needing another type of memory allocation known as non-contiguous memory allocation. So we are going to see, just to avoid external fragmentation, just to avoid the problem of external fragmentation, this designers of operating system, they came up with the idea of non-contiguous memory allocation. What happens in non-contiguous memory allocation is your memory is divided into fixed size or variable sized blocks, and similarly your program is also divided into fixed size or variable sized blocks. And coming to this part, non-contiguous memory allocation has many variations. There are various types, techniques which are used. One of them is paging. Another one is segmentation. And many other processes are used, like paged segmentation, and segmented paging, and various others, but we are going to primarily see these two, that is paging and segmentation. So let us start with paging. Now what is the meaning of paging? When it comes to paging, students, your process, that is your program or your process, I will write it over here, it is divided into equal sized blocks. It is divided into equal sized blocks, and the size of each of these blocks is counted as number of bytes of the power of 2. Say 4 bytes, 8 bytes, 16 bytes, 32 bytes, and so on. It is taken as a power of 2. And so you can see that the process is divided into these pages, and these pages are numbered 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And your physical memory space, physical address space, that is your RAM, is also divided into pages. This is your RAM. it is also divided into equal sized blocks known as frames. Known as frames. So your RAM is also divided into equal sized blocks known as frames. Now size of these are pages and those are frames. Size of one page is equal to size of one frame. One page is equal to one frame. That is, if your page size is 4 bytes, your frame size will also be 4 bytes. Understood? So first your process is divided, and not only your process but every process which comes into your ready queue will be divided into pages, and those pages are actually logical representations. Okay, it is not like something is divided out of the blue, right? Your process knows very well where it starts and where it ends. Okay, only thing we are doing this because in order to reduce external fragmentation. So as the process is divided into different pages, every page can be saved in any of these free frames, and that too in any order. You can see that this is the 0th page, that is the first page. It can be stored over here in this frame. Your first page can be stored over here. Your second page can be stored over here. Third page can be stored over here. Understood? So any page can be stored anywhere. And now this, suppose this refers only to process P1. So we can say that P10, P13, P12, P11 and P12. That is, all these pages, they refer to which process? P1. Similarly, we can have processes or pages of other processes also. So we can have pages pertaining to other processes also. They can also be scattered and stored in any available free frame in the memory. That is known as paging. Okay, so in this method what happens is, it is very easy to work. It's very easy to work with a process, and it is also very easy to provide free chunks of memory to every process, because already your RAM is divided into fixed size blocks. All you have to do is just allocate one page of any one process to that block. Let me tell you, page size, frame size is the same for all the processes. So if we have any other process over here, that is P2, and suppose process P2 has 0, 1, 2, 3 and one more, that is 5 pages. So those pages will also be saved in any of the free available frames. That too depending upon whether there is space there or not. Now see, the entire process might not be needed by your operating system. That it could start with the first 3 pages first. They can come into the memory, they can complete their execution, leave the system, and then page 3 and 4 can be allocated. Suppose over here this page completes its work and leaves the system. So after that P2, 4 can come over here. So this way any page can complete its work and leave the system, and another page can come into the RAM. So you can see that your RAM is divided into fixed size blocks known as frames, and your process is also divided into fixed size blocks known as pages, and one page is stored in one frame, and these pages could be scattered throughout the memory. Now over here you can see that problem which we were facing of scattering of free memory, that has been solved, because everything is fixed over here. The frame size is fixed. The page size is also fixed. So one page has to allocate exactly one frame. But it is quite possible that in your process, suppose if we consider a process consisting of 4 bytes. A process consisting of page size equals to 4 bytes. So every page will have 4 bytes except the last one. This is quite possible that the last page might have 3 bytes, 2 bytes or even 1 byte. Understood? It may not be occupying the entire page. So wherever this is stored, P13, this is P13. So P13 might be occupying only 2/3 of the frame size. Only 3 bytes and one area, this one is free. So this could happen with every process. It could happen with P2 also. The last page of P2, the last page of P3, the last page of P4. This is known as internal fragmentation. Now, in order to remove this internal fragmentation, external fragmentation is removed. Okay, but internal fragmentation is the fragmentation within a frame. So, in order to remove this internal fragmentation, another method, that is segmentation, is used. Let us see what is segmentation. Students, we will not be discussing these topics in much detail because that would go beyond the scope of the syllabus of your textbook. Now in segmentation, what happens is, it uses the user's view of a process. It uses the user's view of the process. The way the user views a process. Segmentation, and it follows the user's view of process. What is the user's view of process? This is the whole process. One program can contain various parts. It can contain a main program. It can contain some methods. It can contain symbol table. It can contain global and local variables. It can contain an inbuilt function like sqrt. It may contain some functions. So you can see that a process may contain multiple things. Okay, and all these things, all these multiple blocks which you can see, they are different in size. They are variable in size. Okay. So your main program could be this much, your methods could be large, your functions could be a medium-sized function, symbol table could be a large table. So this way you can see that the sizes of each of these parts within your program, they are variable. And hence what segmentation does is, it stores each of these in variable sized frames. So suppose this frame goes over here, this particular segment goes over here, this particular segment is stored here, this segment is stored somewhere over here, and this segment is stored somewhere over here. Now you might be saying that here also we can see some internal, external fragmentation, but the answer is no. Why? Because this particular memory, it can go to some other process P2, and that part could be the part which is occupied by any small segment of that process P2. So here a combination is used, that is, your memory is divided into frames, but they are not of fixed sizes, they are of variable sizes, and each of them stores these segments together in them. each of those fragments, each of those frames, they store together these variable sized segments. These are known as segments. So likewise, different processes can have their own different segments which can also be stored in these variable sized frames, and in between you can see that this may refer to P1, this may refer to P1, this may refer to P2, this also refers to P2, this can be for P3, this can be for P3, or this can be for P1. So this way any segment of any process can be stored in any variable sized frame within the memory. But here also, although internal fragmentation is not there and external fragmentation is there, but it is very less as compared to non-contiguous memory allocation. That problem is solved to a greater extent, and in order to even remove this fragmentation, paged segmentation or a combination of paging and segmentation is used so that processes can be stored properly in the memory. So here we end with memory management, that is contiguous and non-contiguous memory allocation. So we have covered two important parts, that is processor management and memory management, that is storage management, and now we will switch over to our last topic, that is input-output management.